Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining us again today. I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Mark.
So we've got Mark with us today because yesterday he wasn't, you were busy.
A few things going on.
Who?
No, there's been lots of fights.
There's just this fight, always this, I don't know, but it's always buzzing right by us. So sorry about that. Right, so you were busy yesterday because you were cooking.
I had lots going on in the garden. I was cooking, so I was covered in mud, and it was a busy day. Lots going on.
It was a busy day.
It was.
And the weather's really nice because it's summer and summer is here, so...
Yeah, it is summer. I mean, it's lovely, but it's been a bit cloudy the last couple of days. But it's still warm, which is amazing.
But it's warm. It's overcast but warm.
Love it.
Anyway, today we wanted to carry on a bit of the discussion that follow on a bit from what I was talking about yesterday with the schooling and the education system here in France, and the experience that English children can have, and things they're confronted with when they start school here in France. And I was going to move on maybe onto another subject, another family area, but I think the education system has still got more to give, and I think there's more to talk about.
Well, it's a big subject. I mean, with our kids, there's a lot going on. There's always different things you have to think about when it comes to the schooling in France. And there's lots of choices you have to make. And as you mentioned in yesterday's video, I wouldn't be worried, and it's never something I think you need to worry about with this education in France. The actual education system is very good. But yeah, there is always those decisions and choices that, as a parent, you have to make.
Well, yes, and I think, I was kind of talking about, coming over to France as soon as possible, so that your children have got time to catch up with the language barriers, because the younger they are, the easier it is for them to pick up the language and, to ease into the culture. And to be honest, French culture and English culture, they do blend in well, we're not all that different, really. I mean, we're not.
Not at all.
And I'm French as well. I'm born British and French. Yes, I do have a very good English accent. That's because I am British. And when I speak French, I do have a little English accent. But I've been coming to France since I was in my mother's womb. So I've been going back and forth ever since, and it's all I've ever known. And, that's just totally normal for me. But I want to give a bit more of, an idea of the education system in France for English children that are learning the language, and for families that are just settling in France with the school routine, because it might sound all very easy and straightforward, but when you're doing it day to day, and it's real life, it's, you have to do it anyway, you have to do it. And that's what this video is about. It's about advising that, although I know I say, you have to come over when the children are small, but you can't always calculate these things.
No,
That's what I was trying to say, is that life isn't always that simple. And I think that as a family, when you're doing a big move like that, and maybe you've never lived in France before, you've only been here on holiday, for me, it's a totally different thing. But I think as adults, even for you and me, we came to France for a few years, a couple of years, and you have to really financially be independent. You've got to be able to support yourselves and your family. And I think you have to make sure that you can actually survive and live in France to start with, don't you? And it's not an easy task.
It's not.
It's not.
I know people who have moved all around the world, actually, but because of their role, they've had to move to different countries, and they've had to take their children with them. And I have friends who've moved to France and brought their kids with them to France. For kids will adapt. Kids, no matter where you go in the world and what you do, kids will always adapt, and they will always younger they are, the quicker they'll learn the language. That's a fact. I mean, as you get older, it's not quite as easy. I mean, I know that from my own experience. It's, picking up French is not the simplest language in the world to understand and pick up. And kids with their young minds, they pick things up a lot faster. So like you said, I would never, I was never worried about bringing our kids to France and making that transition and change. But
then I have always known that I wanted to one day settle down in France, and then we came together as a couple, and luckily you were also on board with that. But because and then we did go to France before having children. We came here, we lived here, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we got a good taste of what it was to live in France, to survive in France, what the taxes are like, and boring things like that, things that you need to know about to be able to survive here, and how it actually feels to live in this country on a day-to-day basis. Because we can talk about France like, oh, it's wonderful, it's fantastic, but we're not here on holiday. And for me, it's never been a holiday place. It's always been another home. So it's always like, and when you think about your home, it's somewhere you go to retreat, to rest, to be with family, and, to just live your life. And it's not just one long big holiday. It's not, because you have to live real life. And that's the reality of it. And you have to...
I agree. I could do it the holiday. It's been busy, but yeah, it is. Wherever you are, that's home. So, but from a schooling standpoint, and in relation to our kids, I think I never had any issues with the education system here. I think it's a good education system. I think they have the right mindset in many areas.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned in yesterday's video, the difference between private schooling and public schooling, depending on what level you go to with the private schooling, I suppose. I don't think you've got, from my personal point of view, I don't think you've got that big difference like you have within the UK. If you go to a private school in the UK, it's very different to a public school. Yeah. It's not that the level of they're generally boarding schools, so it's slightly different.
And they're generally Catholic schools here, aren't they?
They are, they all actually mostly are Catholic schools when it comes to
which doesn't really make much of a difference.
No.
To be honest, they're not raving mad like Catholic
No,
people.
not.
Is that fine again?
Yes, it's around.
Oh.
But no, they're not. Like you said, it's really not like hyper religious when it comes to that side of it. They have all students from all different types of religion, so it's not like they are.
No.
It's hyper religious, but they, like you say, they do tend to be Catholic. But then before the French Revolution, it was a Catholic country. So Catholicism is very, very prevalent
it's still at the heart
France.
of the country, though, even in France. I mean, we do think of it as a republic, laïque country, which it is, laicity. But their religion is...
it's predominantly Catholic.
Yeah, it's Catholic. It's Catholic, and there is a lot of people that go to church here in France. I mean, the churches are busy on a Sunday, and we have been. And we've been surprised at just how many people turn up to church on a Sunday morning. Our local churches are full. So they are very, very much, they have their religion here. And it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to celebrate. This is part of the culture, it's part of our history, and it's part of our moral values and our ethics, and that's what makes this country what it is as well. So there is, and when you go in and out of towns in France, there's always, you go past all these lovely little shrines with the Virgin Mary in it, don't you? Or crosses with, the crucifix with Jesus on it. And there's always beautiful churches everywhere. And it's a bit like England.
No, it's no different.
But in fact, there's more shrines.
Oh, there's more churches and more shrines. But every little village, every little hamlet has a church or a shrine of some sort. So it's It's no different from my mind. It's just
But it is a republic.
the language is a bit different.
Okay, yeah, but it is a republic, and they don't. Well, let's just not go into that area because I'm not covering that area today. Who knows? Maybe another day. But yeah, mostly they're Catholic schools. So, but they are very affordable. So I'd say they're about €80 a month or something, aren't they, per child or something?
Yeah, I think it's even less than that. Actually, I think it's less than that.
It was probably a bit less.
I think it was costing us about that, but that included like lunches every day as well. So it was.
Or was it? I don't know if it was per term.
It might be per term. It wasn't very much money.
But it's very, very possible if you want to look at putting your child into a private school, and they tend to be everywhere, really, don't they?
They are everywhere. They're everywhere. You can get in
so there
every
are
big town.
Public and private schools. Mostly in most towns, they've got one of each. Even the small ones, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
So. And so, yes. What else can we say about that then? There was actually something I did forget to mention yesterday when I was talking about everyday school life for the children. And I was talking about the lunch times being longer and starting earlier and things like that. So their days are a bit longer here in France. And if you're in a private school, they're even a little bit longer. They start even a little bit earlier. So 8 a.m, they do 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. Yeah. And they have an hour for lunch, don't they?
Yeah.
So, and they have 2 little break times, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But I think I covered most of that yesterday. But I forgot to talk about also permanence. The permanence.
Oh yeah, that's something I don't understand. I get it when you're in the 6th form and it's like having free periods, free time off.
It's like study time.
But I don't understand why they would have that. Well, I still don't understand it now, actually. Why, like with the eldest, why they had so much permanence.
This is the problem why our eldest son's changing school, is because they had too many hours permanence because of the lack of teachers.
No teachers.
They have a lack of teachers, and this is a problem that's also in the UK, I think.
Yeah, it's happening all over, yeah.
But this school's got a real problem with retaining teachers, and teachers just tend to not turn up to lessons. And our son's done amazing this year. I think he's worked really well. He's done better than some of the other kids in the class. He's really worked. He's worked, and he's been serious this year. So he's done all his homework. He's done everything he's supposed to do, and he's made us proud.
He's done really, really well. But like you said, they rather than, I suppose it's like in the UK or what we used to with middle kids. If the teachers weren't there, someone would come in and teach the lesson. So if you were in geography and your geography teacher was off sick, you would have someone who'd come in and they would teach you the lesson in geography as much as they could based on the book. They would cover it. Yeah, they'd cover it as much as they possibly could. Whereas what I've seen, certainly at his school, was when the teacher wasn't there, they just put them into study times, permanence. Because there isn't anybody to cover the lesson. It was just I found it really strange. They literally had no one to cover it. But I mean, he was having like a full afternoon or mornings where they were just left in study hours, basically, and then they're watched by somebody. There's just somebody from the school who will cover, a lady who will look after them the best she can. They get shouted at more in that than what they would in the class. But they just get shouted at. It's amazing. I mean, not my son, but not just I don't know, but he. They could talk. It's all of them. They could talk less in that permanence than they could in class, which I found. They're not allowed to breathe. Honestly, I find it very strange. But that's how they do it. That's that school anyway. Yeah, not in schools are like that. Far from it. But we found a nice school, so he'll be starting that school at la rentrée. Now that's another thing but before we move on, permanence is a normal part of your timetable in France for all children in secondary schools.
And normally it's just where you will have some free time because it's just the way they've organised the timetable, and then there's just an hour free here or there throughout the week, and it gives you a chance to study. Back in my day, when I was at school in France, we would if we had permanence first hour in the morning, we didn't have to start school until that time.
Yeah.
But now you still have to go regardless. It's something you have to attend. It's like a lesson.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's the same though when you go to the public school.
I think it is.
If it's the same, similar to what you had, or whether it's where they've got to be there for the whole time.
No,
I've
read the réglementation.
Oh, okay, it's changed a bit then since you were there in those schools.
It seems to be something in France.
Interesting.
I mean, if anybody knows any different, put it in the comments. Let us know.
Good to know.
What your experience is with your children in secondary school. Do they have to go and attend all the permanence lessons, or can they start a bit later and skip that lesson altogether? Because back in my day, you didn't have to be there. It didn't matter if you were there or not. It wasn't compulsory.
So I only had that when it was in like the sixth form. And where if you didn't have lessons in the morning, you wouldn't have to be there. You didn't have to be there for your lessons because it's like in college. But actually, it's in France. It's similar. Well, it was similar to that when you were just in normal school, which is a bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's an interesting thing that you don't have in UK schools. That study time, which is really good for the kids as well. Gives them a chance to do their homework and just to catch up on anything that They don't always have to put. The eldest always comes home and says, I've done my homework. Done it in permanence.
He does it. He's had so much time in permanence, so
I
think
that is true.
He's been doing his homework and helping other people with their English homework. And
that is true. That is true.
So the other thing I think is la rentrée is a really big thing, isn't it? The back to school thing. Like in England, it's big, isn't it?
Not compared to France.
But in
all
France,
the supermarkets go crazy for it.
Yeah, it's really quite something. And the the supermarkets in France are really big, like big.
They're not your average size supermarkets.
And they dedicate whole aisles to just stationery and books and folders and pens and all the agenda, like your diary. And it's lovely. I loved all that part of all the school supplies. Being a child in France, I used to find that really exciting, and you could go and choose a really nice school diary and a nice pencil case, nice new school bag.
I was lucky to have a pen that worked. It was a pencil that wasn't, didn't need sharpening. No, and that was about what you've got in the UK. Go with that and a ruler and a calculator. It wasn't the same.
I don't know why. I just loved all the chaos of that as a child.
I get it, but because you're going out and you're buying all new stuff to start the year, which I think is good. I mean, we can probably get away with using a lot of the stuff from last year.
Yeah, and we do that. We do use what's still good from last year and top things up.
But it's good that they give you a list, don't they? I think the school.
So you get a whole list. Every child will get a whole list of their school supplies, of everything they need, and it's a list with small writing.
A long
and
list.
You have to tick everything off. And when you go, it's just like everybody's there. It doesn't matter what day you go, it's busy. And
do it early if you can. Get the chaos out of the way as early as possible.
Everyone's pushing and shoving and trying to get everything they need. And then you end up with all this stuff in your trolley, and it costs an absolute fortune. I was
going to say, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to do every year. Thankfully, we don't have to do it every year for everything.
No.
But there is... You're looking at,
I think we do have to get most things.
For two boys, you've got a trolley full of stuff.
And then it's always new trainers, new sportswear, new shoes.
That's kids though. They get bigger, they get older, and they grow.
I know, but in France, it's all such a big thing.
Yeah,
and everyone has to do it.
A new bag, some new folders, a new agenda, agenda, and a new little diary. And some pens. That's not too bad. No. Not too bad.
And this year,
with
the new school, it's a public school, and it is lovely. And it's
really nice.
it's all newly done up, it's all modern, newly painted. They've got a swimming pool of their own, they've got their own field, like sports fields.
You'd think the private school would have been like that.
It's lovely. I mean, it's a bit like Eton, isn't it?
Oh, for a public,
Honestly,
for a public
so
school,
lovely.
it looks
It's so nice.
For a public school, it's well, from what I would
It's
imagine
lovely.
a public school would be
I'm
like.
really happy actually
really nice.
about that because I couldn't be happier for him.
He's
I
looking
think
forward
it's
to it. He's looking forward to it.
Anyway, what was I saying?
They provide you a list, don't they?
Yes.
With the list, with the shopping, they actually do it for you, I think, do they
So
not?
this school, yeah,
That's great.
we've never had this service
helpful.
before, and I think we've gone for, because it's not compulsory, but we've given them a check of €28, and basically they go and they get all the supplies for school that he's going to need. And they do all the shopping for you, and then when he arrives, they give it to him in a little basket.
I mean, that's great because last year I think it cost us €100, so it's going to cost us a third of that. I'll any day of the week. Amazing. I don't know.
So we thought, let's just do it. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Let's see what it's like. See what they
get.
choose. See what they get, and it means we don't have to rush around doing. All we have to do is make sure he's got his sportswear.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of stuff already he can reuse anyway. But yeah,
You'll be surprised.
Yeah, I know. But I thought it was really good actually. That it saves parents having the stress of having to go out and go through this whole list of whatever you need. Because you need all these little see-through folders. You need a pack of 10 of those, and you need normal folders to put them into, and then you need.
It's called school. School
But
stuff.
no, it's not though. It's not school stuff. It is school stuff, but it's school stuff in France. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because they don't supply any. Unlike in the UK, where you do get supplied your books, you get supplied everything that you need for your day-to-day school. They don't do that in France. And that's the difference. Is in the UK, they actually provide you a lot of the stuff, don't they? Well, they used to. I don't know if they still do. They certainly used to. But yeah, it's in France you have to supply it yourself, so it's a bit different. But you can get help with that from the government. The government will provide you help with that as well.
They do base it, don't they, on income.
Depending on your income.
And then you get it in your allocation familiar, don't you?
You do.
So, I mean, we're both working. We're a working family. We contribute to the French tax system, so we're fully immersed into the French life. We're French. My children are French. They're born French as well. Anyway. But even if we weren't, we are here as working people, and that's the thing in France. You have to make sure you're working.
Yeah, I mean the French government will help people who haven't got the income to be able to pay for that sort of thing. So they give you they'll give like each family money towards helping their kids get everything they need for school. So that's really good, really good. So yeah, that's something the government do, I think, which I think it's a really good thing.
Shall we just move on to maybe what English children are going to be confronted with when they start school in the classroom, like certain maybe challenges, things that they might find a little, the things that they're going to find the most difficult, probably.
Yeah. So what challenges do you think they normally have?
Well, I would say it's the language barriers, obviously, because there is the whole cultural change, but I don't think that's really going to cause any problems because they're not huge cultural changes.
Not when it comes to kids, I don't find.
But really it's the language barrier, and I think it's getting used to, because when you're a child and you're at primary school, for example, the lessons are very different to the ones in the UK. They're learning very different things, and they have quite a bit of homework compared to the UK.
Surprisingly so, actually, yeah.
They do. I mean, our younger boy has quite a lot of homework.
All the time he's got homework or something.
It's not that hard. To be honest, it's very simple homework. He got used to it very quickly, and I mean, our youngest boy didn't speak a lot of French because I always try to speak as much French to my children as possible, to our children, as possible, because I knew that I wanted to transfer that knowledge to them anyway, regardless as to whether we moved to France, because it's always useful. But I knew as well that they were potentially going to need it one day when we moved to France. And anyway, so our eldest boy I spoke French to him. That was the first language I actually spoke to him. So he's been hearing and knowing about French since birth. He's always understood French. And then it was just getting the words out and him being verbally fluent with it. But he's always been very good with his French. So he's always had his French there, hasn't he? Whereas our youngest boy hasn't. He didn't really have that as much because we were living in England, and I think at the time we were so busy, I didn't really find, and I should have done, but I didn't find enough time to speak to him in French. Although he did know some.
It was not. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is. We weren't,
No, but what I'm trying to say is that we've got experience of a child who had a good certain level of French, as well as a child who didn't have the same level as French. So I've seen them progress differently at school, and their learning has been at different paces, basically.
But within 6 months, our youngest was up to speed with French, and he was able to communicate with his friends and all that, which is the most important thing. Getting on with your peers and being able to communicate with your peers is the most important thing when it comes to that sort of thing.
That's a really good point, because that's another big real worry for parents, and I know for me, was social isolation. And that's the worst thing for children, because they need to interact, they need to play and have their friends, just for their development in any country. It doesn't matter, you have to have that around you. So when they started making their own friends, that was a really good moment, wasn't it?
Well, they do. Kids, like we've said from the start, kids adapt very fast, and they will make friends and find ways to communicate far quicker than us adults who are a bit stuck in our way and a bit scared to embarrass ourselves. Kids aren't like that. Kids will just adapt, and they will find a way, and they will have, even if they can't speak the language straight away, they will find a way to communicate and have fun together, because that's what kids do.
As long as they're young enough, because when you get to a certain age, just imagine if you came to live in France and you're like 14, 15.
Yeah, it's a bit different. That's a bit different.
Even 13, it starts to get awkward. It starts to get difficult.
Yeah.
And it can cause a lot of stress on some children. They find that extremely stressful. It makes them very miserable, sad. It's like a sense of grief that they're living, that they've left and a culture and come to a whole new one, and it's frustrating to not be able to express yourself. No one really understands you, you don't understand them, and it's very, very difficult.
That's hard as a teenager anyway, even if you can communicate, because being a teenager, you're going to that point of no one understanding you and no one listening to you, because that's how you feel as a teenager. It's even worse if you're then put into a country where the language is completely different. So I can certainly understand that, I can understand the reasons for that.
But I think if you do bring children over who are that age group, 13, 14, 15, whatever plus, I think it's going to be really important to find some way to help them and really support them, because they are also going to need a lot of support. Getting them involved in French society, maybe get them involved with French-speaking groups.
I was going to say
online groups,
sports clubs.
There's apps that are really good. Sports clubs.
Yeah, because if they've got a sport, they love doing a sport, then get them involved in the sports clubs, because that will, at least they've got something in common with their peers and what they're playing, and that will then allow them to relax and break into that, be open a bit more.
Yes, break some barriers.
That's the words. Break the barriers a bit more and make them feel more comfortable, because even if you aren't able to speak the language, you can communicate because you know the sport. it's kind of
so there's like conversation meetup groups and things like that that you can sort out online. You can join like certain online groups. Just encourage them to learn French, and if you're learning French as well, that's a great time to do it. Do it together. You know, you support them and you do it with them, which is a great way, because then you're all learning French, you know, and you have to know French. If you're living in France, you've got to do it. So
you have. It's no matter what age you are, it's an important thing to have if you're living in the country.
Definitely. So yeah, I think just being patient as well. So just reassuring your children, being patient with them, and explaining to them that they need to be patient and just keep doing their best, keep communicating. I think communication is really key, because if you're not communicating with them and they can't communicate with anybody because they can't, this is going to be a disaster, really. It's not going to be good. So you've got to keep communicating together.
It's not making their life easier, or your life easier for that matter.
Yeah. So keep doing social building, you know, building those connections, making those new links with people who live nearby. There are probably families just like you who are also doing the same thing. You could reach out to other families that already live in the area. You probably already know all this, but I think it's really important to talk about that as well. Otherwise it's quite a lonely, you know, experience, and you don't want that, because that's really not what it should be like. It shouldn't be like that. But that's something that can happen, that people don't always anticipate, that it's actually, you know, these things can happen. Yeah, and I think also, just keep celebrating all the things that you normally celebrate as well as a family. Don't change what you do. You keep your family traditions at home. You keep that normality going at home as well. And we have a real mix up of family, all sorts of traditions. We mix it all up now, and I've always done that with, you know, my family, my mum, you know, Christmas time, and then you've got the Galette des Rois. It's called the Galette des Rois at the 5th of January, I think it's just or the 6th. They celebrate that. It's another celebration after Christmas. And, you know, we just mix up all the celebrations, and the more things there are to celebrate, the better, really, you know.
Absolutely.
But, you know, they do sometimes do things a bit differently in France. And sometimes some people, they celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. So, and, you know, they have their presents on Christmas Eve.
It's
but,
just,
you know,
that's just
that would be strange for us to do that.
Christmas Day.
The
kids would love it on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but they didn't have Christmas Day.
Yeah. And I just want to probably lastly talk about you know, because I think as a parent, when you're moving to another country with a different language, you just want to make sure that your child is going to have the same opportunities as all the other children in the school, in the classroom. You don't want them to be falling behind and totally like failing their education. You know, you want to make sure that you know, that they're going to have the support in place, and that there are strategies and things set in place for children who are struggling or who are learning a new language, you know. And I have to say, I think in France they've been really good with our children, haven't they? The schools have taken them on board, obviously, because, you know, they're here, they're citizens of France. They have always been very helpful with the children. I think they have spent that extra time with them, because, you know, in schools they do a lot of orthograph and grammar, and the little children in primary school do a lot of that. You know, they're learning their verbs, their conjugaison and their grammar, and they do a lot of learning by heart. So they learn a lot of poems, which is great because that's a really fantastic way for your children to learn the language. They're going to be sitting at home learning poems, and I always make sure that they always learn them the best they can. Like, I learn it with them because I knew that that was going to help especially our youngest son, well, both of them really, but it really helped him to verbalise the language, so that he was saying things, he didn't always understand what he was saying, but he was saying them, and he could recite a whole poem, and he would get full marks for it because he could do it. And I said, look, if you can do that, you can do everything else, because they're not always easy.
No, they're not. But the teachers are very good, even, I suppose it doesn't matter whether they're English or French, the teachers are very good with regards to helping out the children who need the help, which is kind of what they're there for. So they step in and they assist with, like you said, pronunciation and things like that. But what you will find is, having English children in a French school, they will be helping out a lot when it comes to English lessons, which has been a great thing for both of our kids. They've loved that, where they can actually almost be the teacher because they can correct the teacher, because their English is obviously not as good as our kids.
Well, that's the fun bit, isn't it?
It's the fun bit.
And that's something else that I wanted to also add, actually, you've reminded me, because in primary school, when you're in about year 2 here, English becomes a compulsory lesson in France, that teachers have to begin to teach the children English. So they begin their English learning. Yeah, so they love that. I mean, that's their area. And it comes in very useful because they help the teachers.
They absolutely do. I mean,
I remember helping the teacher.
I mean, our eldest is terrible, because he'll come out with things, and he'll where they have to go to lessons and they have to make stories or have words, and the other children have got to work out what they are. He's terrible, because he'll come out with, think of words that there's no way that the poor French children are going to know what that means. I mean, even the best articulated English person would have trouble with some of the words.
Well, he plays.
He does. But that's a game that they love, and that's a game that they play.
And it does teach them other things.
It does. But they love that, and they love being able to help out as well. And that's a really important thing, certainly for our youngest. He loves helping the teacher when it comes to the English side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also we've always worked closely with the school. Like, we are the kind of parents that talk a lot to the teachers. They always see us, we're always very present, and not overly present, but they definitely know who we are. I've always worked quite closely with the teachers to make sure that everything's going smoothly for him, for our boy, and for both of them, actually, and just to know what's going on, what are the difficulties at the moment at school or anything like that. And I really enjoy going and helping out with any outings, and that's a good thing to do as well.
You do that quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I do. I like it. Or if it's like swimming and they need extra help with the swimming, looking after the groups or at the swimming pool, whatever. And I really enjoy just going out and doing that, so they know that I'm one of the parents that I will be there if they need me. And I think that's a really good thing, because if you can do that and make yourself available for the schools, show that you're there to support them as well, because they are doing a lot for our children and they're spending a lot of time, and it's giving them quite a task as well. It is. But I want to repay that, so I say, well, if you need extra help with an English lesson, or if I can help with anything to do with this, or if you need extra help, then I give them that extra help as well. And it's good because you're giving back to the community, and
always good. That's
really always a good thing. Wherever you are, that's a good thing. But in France, it's good. It's especially if you're living in rural France, they need the extra help. and extra support.
They never turn the help down.
No, they don't. So I think, is there anything else?
That's probably it.
So I think that's just going to cover those extra things that were on our minds that we felt were worth talking about and sharing. And we hope you like this video. If you do, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will be doing more videos like this because we enjoy these little chatty videos, don't we? They're good fun.
We will, and there's quite a few videos and quite a few ideas we've got for these videos. But if there's anything particularly you want to have advice on or want information on, chuck it in the comments, and we're more than happy to have a look and then build videos that you want. So and it would be interesting to read anybody's comments on your experience of living in France and children at school and things like that. Absolutely. So don't hesitate to put that in the comments, and we will see you in the next video. We will. Thanks ever so much, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Have a good weekend and a good week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.